Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to Utility Sports. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the top 5 relocation cities for a possible NFL expansion. And if you guys are new to our channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And also don't forget to click the bell so you don't miss out on any of our latest videos. We do post every day and sometimes even multiple times a day. So in order to keep up with our content, make sure you hit that. We really appreciate the support. We're right about at 800 subscribers. We might be by the time this video gets uploaded. And we're really trying to grow to 1,000 pretty quickly here. So hit that subscribe button, please. And also, if you are interested in more relocation videos, we do have one out on the NBA. Also on our channel, there'll be a card right here for it. And so jumping into it, Austin, where do you see the first one possibly being?
Yeah, so for me, it's going to be Portland, Oregon. Obviously, there's overwhelming support for the Oregon Ducks, but Portland's able to support a pro team, and we see that with the Portland Trailblazers. I think that this makes a lot of sense. And if you think about geographically where the NFL sits, you have Seattle Seahawks, obviously, in Washington, but there's not a lot to the east of that Seattle area. Denver kind of dominates that northwestern part. So does Seattle, but you need to have another team in there to kind of counterbalance that. Obviously, Portland, they have to either cheer for the Seahawks or one of the California teams. It kind of depends, but I think they could support their own NFL franchise. Obviously, we've seen it with the Ducks, we've seen it with the Trailblazers, and you see the graphic here, the Portland Snowhawks, pretty cool logo, but we've seen that for Madden all the time. I really like that for Portland, and I think that would be a great addition to the NFL.
Yeah, definitely Portland would be interesting. And one of the interesting things, too, that we'll jump back into at the end of the video here is kind of what like league realignment could look like. Obviously, the NFL is pretty interesting with their divisions and conference, so it'll be kind of interesting to talk about that. Jumping into number 4, though, however, we have Toronto making the NFL more of a global game, more globalized football and not football. Obviously what we see in Spain. And I think the importance of this, you could look at what has been successful in the NBA. As you see here, Scotiabank Arena, home of the Toronto Raptors, who are actually playing in Tampa this year. So this wouldn't be right now in the future, immediate future for the NFL, obviously with COVID protocols. But Toronto long-term could be a really successful addition. The NBA was pretty aggressive in their moves to go global, jumping north of the border here for the United States into Canada. And it's been really successful. We saw the Toronto Raptors win a championship. And quite frankly, they have, pretty much nationwide support up there in Toronto. They're one of the bigger markets, actually. We're starting to talk about even Toronto as a free agent destination for a player like Giannis. So in the NFL, I really think it could be beneficial, not only for a successful team, but also for really globalizing the game, something that the NFL should be really looking to do. They've got a really big market here at home in the United States, and I think the only possible ways for growth is, maybe expanding outside of the borders, and I think Toronto's the most sensible place to do so with in terms of geographics. Jumping into 3, Austin, we have Chicago here. Walk us through this one.
Yeah, for Chicago, I think it makes a lot of sense to add another team to Chicago. We've seen it with the White Sox and the Cubs. They can coexist, the Northsiders, the Southsiders. It really works for Chicago. They're the third largest city in the entire nation, obviously. You have LA, you have New York, and both of those have 2 NFL franchises. So you throw Chicago into the mix, and I think they're a really, really good destination. They could host another team. They obviously have overwhelming support for the Chicago Bears, and I think it could really, really work having another NFL franchise in the Midwest. I see this as a great fit, and it really gives people in the Midwest another option. Like if people in Iowa don't have a team, or whoever it may be, I think it works out having that Chicago team, the second one, because we've seen it work in baseball. They love their football there, and I see that as a very, very good option for the NFL relocation.
Yeah, that in-city rivalry is really fun, definitely for NFL franchises and for NFL fans. And jumping into number 2 here, we're going to add another in-state rivalry in Texas. Obviously, they have the Houston Texans and the Dallas Cowboys already. But at this point, we're looking at San Antonio, another city that's been really successful for an NBA franchise. We've seen the Spurs be one of the most successful franchises in the NBA. When it comes to ticket sales, they're consistently around the top. Obviously, they've had a really good product on the court. But I think this makes a lot of sense for the NFL, too. You have a field already built there based on what the AAF was able to do with the San Antonio Commanders. And you've got a market there. They were pretty successful in their short time in the AAF existence. And also looking at that globalizing the game, San Antonio has a really high Hispanic population, and that's something that could really help kind of dig into the soccer market and maybe, turn some of those people into football fans and really, grow the NFL product. And possibly, you're looking at possible expansion then even south of the border into possibly like Mexico City or a few others a few years down the road after a San Antonio edition. And that brings us to number one on our list, Austin. We have Birmingham here. Walk us through why Birmingham is such a great choice.
Yeah, think about the South, and you look at it between the New Orleans Saints in Louisiana all the way to the Falcons in Georgia. There's a big gap. You have a couple of states like Mississippi and Alabama that are not represented. If we think about the Alabama Crimson Tide, they have some of the best supporting fans in all of college football, you can argue. I think Birmingham would work. They have pretty good support with the Birmingham Iron during the AAF stint that they had there. And I think it makes all the sense in the world. If you can support the college football team like you do, they've been NFL starved, obviously. They don't have a team. They have to root for the Falcons, or they have to root for the Saints, or they would have to go as high as Tennessee to root for the Titans. If you think about that, I think it makes all the sense in the world. It gives some of those southern states another option. Obviously, Arkansas doesn't have a team as well. So if you're able to bring in fresh product to the NFL, you're going to have some of the young fans, with a relocation or for that matter, an expansion, all these young fans in the South that really, they don't have access to a team in terms of, what their state has to offer. They could really gravitate towards a Birmingham. Obviously, like I had mentioned with the Crimson Tide, they really support them, and they live and die Alabama Crimson Tide football. But I think Birmingham would be a phenomenal option for the NFL. You keep it in the States. I do want to mention an honorable mention of London and possibly one of the Virginias to have a team. I think those are two options that could be said. With Virginia, obviously, geographically, it would make sense to have one for both of the Virginias. You can you could definitely have it for both, have it maybe close to the border. It really depends, but the London option is not realistic to me considering the travel schedule, the divisions. It would be really, really hard for the NFL to be able to have a London work. Obviously, there's been support. We've seen when the Jags go over to London to play, there's a ton of fans. But if you think about that, that's, once or twice a year that we've had that. It keeps growing. But we have to think about a full 16-game schedule. You're going to have the fan support, but is it enough to compensate for having to go across the Atlantic Ocean? I don't know if it is. I really don't think that's a realistic option. I think it's really good in terms of, what the market would be over there, but I just don't see it being big enough to where it's worth making these players go across the Atlantic Ocean several times a year. You would have to really, really have the schedule where it's all home games consecutively, all away games consecutively, but that's a lot of time. It's almost like being in the NBA bubble if you're on that away schedule. I don't see it working, but thanks everybody for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video. Please let us know in the comment section below, who deserves an NFL franchise? Do you agree with us? Do you see relocation, expansion? How do you see the league realigning? We do appreciate your support. Leave a like and subscribe.